Welcome, everybody. It's been a few weeks since we've been able to join you guys for the Office 365 Pulse, but we have all three of us back after a little break for the summer, so we are excited to go through a bunch of updates that we have. It seems like we have everything in every category this week, so I'll go ahead and go through the categories for us. We have what's called in development, and so what that means is that the lovely teams in Redmond are working on it. They're developing it. It hasn't really been released in any of the environments, but they're building out the features. They're working on requirements. We have rolling out. That means it's going through the first release stages. So if you're a first release tenant, you're going to start to see it. Now, all first release tenants are not the same. So if Tom and I are both in first release, that doesn't mean we'll both see it at the same time. So first release is going to go in phases. So when it's in that rolling out phase, it means it's hitting all of those first release tenants based on a schedule that Microsoft has. And every feature that comes out is going to be on a different schedule. So you just kind of never know. You know it's coming. Sometimes in the release notes, they put when they expect it to come and stuff like that. But if you're first release and rolling out, it should be coming soon. Launched means it has hit all of the tenants. So launched means you're good to go. And then canceled means sad trombones. Oh, I forgot my noisemaker today. Remember I was going to bring my noisemaker that played the... it's downstairs.
Well, I do have the one that Christian and I used at ours, which is the air horn of...
Oh, gosh. But the canceled means that it is no longer on the roadmap. But canceled usually means it's either no longer on the roadmap. Occasionally it means something major like, hey, InfoPath, you are no more. But other times it means this feature is no more because this feature is now this feature. So not always the end of the world. So on the Pulse show, we usually like to take them group by group. And so the first one we are going to do this week is going to be in development. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Tom, and he's going to just go through, and then we'll each kind of go through and pick some of the ones that we like to talk about that are in development, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So take us away, Tom.
Sounds good. So there is a ton of stuff this week. We could probably spend 2 hours talking about everything, but as Jen said, we're going to kind of pick and choose the things that caught our attention. One thing that is now officially in development, for better or for worse, is Microsoft Teams private channels. This has been probably the most requested thing on any user voice of any feature that they've had out there, and that is people wanted to be able to have a channel in their Teams workspace that they could restrict to just a small number of people rather than all the people that are part of that workspace. This is good because right now the only thing that you could say was, okay, well, create a new team with just those people in it, which creates a lot of team sprawl, and if there's common stuff, it probably wasn't the best way to go about it. The problem you run into, though, is when you do the private channels, and this has been discussed by MVPs ad nauseum, I think, over the last year or so, is that you end up with some strange permission issues because having the private channels means that you now have unique permissions on different folders within your SharePoint Online area that's storing all your files. It can get really messy. And so while I think this is a good feature, I'm a little curious to see how it's going to be implemented and how they're going to keep the permissions from devolving into sheer chaos. But we'll see how that one goes. The one right after that I'll mention before I hand it back over to Adam, or hand it to Adam because he hasn't spoken yet, is a call to action on the link to a Hero web part. So in the Hero web parts that they're going to be rolling out for SharePoint Online, or the updates to them, you're going to actually be able to have two links on there. So you can link to the actual web part, or the actual image itself, but you can also have a call to action link. So you can have click on the image, go one place, call to action, click on those words, go to a second place. And I think that's kind of nice to have a couple different options there to take somebody to maybe some overall content if they click on the image, but if you want them to actually do something, click on the words and go to wherever you need to on that one.
Yeah, and the hero web part, for anybody that may not be familiar with it, is that web part that's usually on the top of the communication pages that are those images that are usually in those little squares. So there's like 4 or 5 images on the top, or they're layered on top of each other. It's really powerful web part. And so, Tom, I'm kind of with you on the private channels. I'm super excited it's in development. I'm cautiously optimistic that it is going to be wonderful. I am proceeding with caution and advising everyone to do the same. I'm sure when it finally launches, there's going to be a lot of great information. The last thing they want to do is make a mess that everybody has to deal with, because then they're going to have to help us clean it all up. So I know they want to do what's best for everybody. So I think we'll see it in development. I think this will be one that when it goes to first release, again, we'll just watch and see how it happens. There'll be guidelines around it. There'll be documentation, but we'll see where that one comes, and we'll see what happens. I expect the next time we'll hear about that will probably be either at Ignite or right before Ignite or something like that. But I expect a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that one finally hitting in dev.
I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm part of the probably vocal minority that I think it's a really bad idea. Like, to me, you have the governance and bifurcation set up already around teams. Like, to me, it's much more logical to just have a separate team for those people and manage it that way. Like, I think anytime you're getting to where you're putting up artificial walls and type of environment, you're just asking for trouble. So I will
typical admin.
Just
say no.
Cautiously wait to see where it comes out. But I definitely into the vocal minority of I think it's a bad idea. So we'll see.
Crazy. All right. So some of the things that I wanted, so I'll go next. One of the things I think is great is that the site owners, something that's in development, is site owners can now associate their sites with a SharePoint hub. So this used to be something that could only be done with site collection admin privileges, but they're updating the permission now so that site owners can associate sites to a hub. So just trying to make it a little bit more consistent with the overall experience within SharePoint. So if you're a site owner, you can associate sites with the SharePoint hub. So that's just kind of changing that up there. You don't have to be a site admin to be able to do that. If I'm the site owner, I can do that.
So I'm a little curious, Jen, on something like that, if somebody owns the hub site, they're now going to have people who could go out there and say, hey, I want to be part of this hub site and associate their site. Does that take away some of the ability for the hub site owners to control who does and does not connect?
No, I think it means that if I'm the owner of the hub site, I can associate sites with my hub site.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so think of it the other way around. Yeah,
okay.
So if I'm like the business owner and I'm the site owner of my hub site, I can say, site A belongs and should be part of my site, but I don't have to be the overall site administrator, because maybe I'm the business owner, but I shouldn't really be the site administrator because that gives me too many buttons to click, and if I have buttons to click, I'm going to click them. So, but I can be the site owner, and then I can say, yes, you can be part of my hub because I'm the one who makes the rules for my hub. So think of it as that, not the other way around. And so it makes it a better overall user experience. This is actually a really good change. So I'm excited about this one in development. Should make it easier for the business to do the business things.
Great.
That's the goal of SharePoint, right? Making it easier for the business to do the business things. I think I just tagline it there. We're done.
There you go.
No.
All right, Adam, talk to us about some of these admin-y things that are coming.
Well, I'm actually just going to give a shout-out first and foremost. There were 2 things that caught my eye. So in the last year, I joined Jen at Planet, which has exposed me to the world of government clients, which is something for the last 7-8 years I didn't really deal with. And it's kind of funny in my head when I think of government clients. It's like you have Commercial Cloud here that has all the bells and whistles. You then have GCC, which is like very envious of Commercial Cloud and their slogan and stuff. Then you have High GCC, which is like the Stone Age of technology. Like they can't communicate with people. Like they're really locked down. But so there were 2 things that were added to the roadmap this week for Cloud App Security and Azure ATP, which are both security things that I love, that I think has great functionality, have been added to the in development section for coming to GCC High. So it's kind of rare that you see stuff moving along the process to get to GCC High, and Cloud App Security and Azure ATP are both pretty awesome proactive tools that can become a part of a company's tool belt to deal with security and access and things like that. So just really happy to see that development coming and see that growth coming here, because like I said, the customers that you do have in GCC High, like literally some of them like can't talk to people outside of GCC. Like you're not allowed to email people that aren't in the GCC High tenant and some of the stuff like that. So it definitely is buttoned down, and seeing some of those new security things, I would almost argue,
as it should be,
but I would even argue that some of these security things are almost needed more there because of that. And so seeing some of the more proactive, cool things coming out and moving that direction is nice to see.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. So a lot of good stuff coming to GCC High. Speaking of coming, let's talk about going away. So did you guys see the big announcement on the 31st of July, Skype for Business being retired? So if you read the snoozer, 300-page service description document of Office 365, they have all those rules about how long they have to tell you when things are going away. So it's the 2-year. If they're taking away a product, they have to give you 2 years notice. Well, they gave us our 2 years notice for Skype for Business on July 31st. So you have until 2021 of July 31st, and Skype for Business will be no more. Now, before then, it will go away in new tenants, but for existing tenants, it will be no more. So I do find it comical, fun. I find it cute that the same week that happens, that we get a whole bunch of things added to the roadmap for Microsoft Teams in the calling area. So we've got Teams voice platform, Teams reverse number lookup, Teams, shorter retention for policies, and Teams Skype consumer chat and calling interoper. So we're getting all sorts of stuff in the Teams things. So what I will say about that is, y'all, Microsoft Teams is getting ready to be everything we need it to be for Skype to go away.
Yeah.
And so they have added, I think there might be 10 different things in this roadmap that are all around all those call things. So if you're in that group that's saying, well, I want to go away from Skype for Business, but there's this one feature I'm using, don't worry, it's probably now on the roadmap. So
yeah, I even really like seeing like the dynamic E911 stuff. Like that's just cool, right? It's like if your company actually uses what would have been now Skype for Business to do true enterprise voice replacement, they're setting up Teams, as Jen kind of said, going through and adding some of the voice stuff. And one of the cooler features is if you need to call 911, they do location services for where you're at. So that way, like, there actually is an emergency. It's not like, oh, it's a cloud number, good luck finding them. So cool to see some of that development coming along. And like Jen said, I think that's the type of stuff that really needs to be developed fully, to the point that it can actually, take Skype's place as the enterprise voice replacement and everything. So cool to see.
But of course, if I ever called 911 on Skype, they would send all the things over to Portland, and I would die out here in Minneapolis. So it's okay.
Too funny. All right, Tom, is there anything else in the development category that you had before we move on? I might have stole your thunder with some of the team stuff, but it wouldn't be the first time I steal your thunder in the
I am okay with that, Jen. It's not a problem.
Well, then we'll let you start on rolling out. Do you have anything in the rolling out category that you're super excited about?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit further into our list, because this is one thing that I was really hoping would turn out the way that it actually is turning out. And that is the My Analytics dashboard and the My Analytics email digest are now coming to all the different Microsoft Office 365 suites. So it's not just an E5 thing, which I used to look at the E5 thing going, I'd like to know who I collaborate with and who didn't read my emails in time, but I can't tell that. Well, now I can. So now y'all are going to be actually having to pay the piper if you're not responding to me fast enough. But yeah, those are really cool statistical analysis pieces that enable you to figure out, hey, am I having enough focus time? Am I spending too much time in meetings? Am I doing more work after hours and on weekends than I should be? This is a really cool thing. I actually have seen it now in our tenant. So really cool. If you haven't ever played around with My Analytics, keep an eye out for that one hitting your tenant, because that's going to kind of blow your mind on how you spend your time during the day.
Yeah, totally. I got one that I think is fun, and I'm going to go with it because I don't know if you guys remember, if you've been watching a show for a while, there was one that came on that was called the Golden Folders, and when it hit rolling out, we responded just like that, and then we laughed,
sure.
and then on the SharePoint conference, it was actually like a big thing in the keynote, and they talked about golden folders, and the golden folders actually seemed pretty cool. So I'm thinking this one might be something similar to that, in that I kind of giggle when I see it, and I go, what the heck? And then it actually ends up being, kind of cool. And that's going to go saving to the cloud simplified. Because what in the world is that? Exactly, right? We all giggle when we see that, right? Because we're going to make it easier for people to save their files. And so what they really get from that, what I see from that is, oh crap, you're rolling something out, and what I see from that is users are going to see a new save dialog. Okay, well, you're going to make it easier to save somewhere, but they're going to see something new when they're exiting an app. So I think that that's something that as we're rolling out, we should be a little mindful of as that one's coming. So if you're talking to users as this is rolling out, just be a little mindful of that, because if I know anything about users and working with them, that is something that can cause a little bit of a problem. So I would just be a little bit mindful of that.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and build on that. I think that is one of several things that they put on here that may have slight changes on it, but I think ultimately are quality of life user and admin stuff. So the idea of saving to the cloud simplified, why it does have a silly name, obviously is the idea that it's trying to make it easier for the users to select SharePoint and OneDrive in a way that may be less natural for them to do so in applications where the save function was built out to save it onto your computer. Along that vein, a couple other things that they're doing. One of the things I thought was cool, right now, if you click on a link that someone gives you from OneDrive or SharePoint, it opens up the file in the online version. So if I were to give Jen a link to a Word document in the cloud, it opens it up into Word Online, the web browser, and if Jen wants to edit it inside of her Word application, she'd then have to go and click on in the top right, Open in Word. They're now going to make it so if you give someone a link, it will give them the option directly from the link to open up in the application, which I think is naturally how most of us want to work anyways. So love to see something like that. A couple more small things along that line. So we talked a little bit in the past about the idea of going through and that they were going to start including Microsoft Teams in the Office Pro Plus deployments, and so gave everyone a heads up. Well, they're now going to phase 2 of the rolling out phase, which is the legacy clients that had deployed the Office Pro Plus package prior to Teams being there. The new update channels that are going to be coming out are going to now have the Teams application. So say you installed Pro Plus a year ago and Microsoft Teams app was not included by default. Well, you weren't impacted by the first wave when it came through of new installs, but this second wave that's coming through is going to retroactively install it on people. So if you did install Pro Plus a while ago, be aware of that. And the final thing I'll throw out there, we were talking about this right before we hopped online. One of the most common questions I got related to Office deployments. You can have up to 5 installations of Office Pro Plus if you have a license that allows it, which is great. But once you hit that 5 number, if you try to install a 6th, you basically just got a window that said, hey, you already have 5 installs, go delete one, which to, James, who's the assistant for your, vice president that has no idea what he's doing in computers, that's probably not going to be that helpful. They're just going to call the help desk and complain to you. So what it's now going to actually do is when you get to that 6th installation, it's going to automatically deactivate the oldest one or the least used one, the last accessed one, which I think is a great quality of life improvement and follows the line of the several things that we talked about here, which is small changes that they're making to the admin or end user experience will just make your life easier. So hopefully it works out well. I think there is some reason to be cautious, as Jen kind of pointed out, but all these types of developments, I think, are ultimately good if executed correctly.
Totally. How about you, Tom? What else is coming?
There's a group that actually in the message center, they kind of dealt with all of these as one. I think they're rolling out, it's supposed to be done by the end of October, which is right before Ignite. Surprise, surprise. And that is some changes in the modern pages for SharePoint in terms of web parts and things that you can do. So one is a button web part and a call to action web part, which I think is really cool. Instead of you having to go out and find your own button images and then paste the images and then make it a link and the whole bit, that you can just grab a web part that's going to be a button and configure it that way. So I think that'll be a lot easier for people. Also, the call to action where you can add text to an image is kind of cool, because if you have an image out there, you just pop some text on there. It looks like it's part of the image where it's really not, but it's a clickable link. And if the image is too small for your words, it actually puts the clickable link for the call to action underneath the image. So that's really cool. And I actually saw Sandra do something for somebody who had an idea of, hey, I want to do this, and we're like, no. But using this call to action thing, it actually worked out really well. They've got a world clock and weather update widgets that you'll be able to, or web parts that you'll be able to add to your page, which on one hand you're going, really? Do I really care? But it's kind of nice if you've got a company that has multiple offices in multiple time zones. That's kind of nice. Maybe it's okay if I'm in Portland and I know or I'm in Minneapolis and I know I've got this 2-hour time shift, but I'm over in India. Don't ask me what the time is there. I don't know. The news, and you'll love this one, Jen, being that you're the news junkie.
I do love this one.
You're going to get a layout similar to the Hero web part and available for news. And I think that'll be nice because it'll give you some consistency in, instead of just images and links going to different things, you can now have news that behaves that same way. So
Talk about newsletters. That's going to make doing a newsletter super nice and easy.
Yes, very nice. And then the final thing in the group was highlighted content with custom query filtering. So if you're into camel code or KQL code, you can actually now do some advanced querying instead of just the click, 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 and you hope you get the right combination of things to get the filtering or the effects that you want. So they're going to open up some of the stuff behind the curtain so you can get out there and be a little bit more advanced in what you want to have happen. So I think that's all good.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So I think I didn't have anything else for rolling out. So does anyone else have any final things for the rolling out section?
There was one that I just thought was cool. It's not overly technical at all. They announced that they're doing 360-degree image preview, which is right now stuff that's in OneDrive. They even point out they have 320 different supported file types. I have no need for 360-degree images. I don't even have a 360-degree image. But I think it's cool that they're developing that. Like, if you are a company that is part of your business of what you do, up until now you would have had to have separate software and view everything separately, even if you stored it in OneDrive. The fact that they're developing something like that, I don't know. The nerd in me thought that was cool.
Well, actually, I saw some article, I don't remember where it was, but they were showing, here's what would happen now if you put a 360 image out there, and here's what will happen with the support. And so with the support, of course, you can scroll around and see all around you, where otherwise, you look at it, it kind of gives you that fishbowl effect where everything is weird and tilted and off axis and the whole bit, and it's really not that useful. And most people are probably not going to have that software piece installed to be able to see that properly. I think it's kind of cool that they can do that now. Again, not something that's going to make or break my life, but it's nice to have it there. Neat nonetheless, yes.
It's so funny because, Adam, that is so your personality. Like, there are 300 of these, and I don't know why I need any of them, but I want them all. That is so his personality. I love it.
I love it.
Oh, that's great. All right, well, moving to launched. Since I started with we're going to make sharing easier, I'm going to also go with one that I think is ridiculous in the launch category. And that is another one, guys. Guess what? In Outlook for Windows, we can now enjoy animated GIFs in our email. So, happy day, we can have animated GIFs. I'm sure that everyone is thrilled about that. It's going to make our life grand.
Run right out there after this call and try that one out.
Sandra will be so thrilled.
Oh, yes. Hey, Sandra, look what we can do now.
You should just send an announcement email to the whole company. Hey, guys, we now support GIF, and just see what happens.
Yeah, with little, as a friend of mine used to call it, the dancing baloney, so I could have the dancing baloney going across the top of the email.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So I'm going to pass the baton to someone that has something a little bit more meaningful in the launch category today. Go for it, Tom. Go for it.
Live captions and subtitles in PowerPoint.
Awesome.
This is now out there. I saw a demo of this not last month, because I actually spoke at that user group meeting, but the one prior to that, somebody demoed this. And basically what it is if you're in PowerPoint and you turn this feature on, it's using your mic to hear what you're saying, and it's actually doing on-the-fly both translation and subtitles of what you're doing, which when you see that working, you're like, whoa, this is really awesome, because you've got the slides up there, it's listening to us talk like we'd be doing right now, and you're seeing the subtitles for everything that's being said in real time, and it will also do translation, which, not knowing a second language, that doesn't do me a lot of good, and I don't know what I'm telling people in Spanish, but I think this is a really cool implementation of their whole machine learning, real-time translation, awesome feature. I'm looking forward to this being out there on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give a shout out too. This is stuff that we talked about previously, but it's now moved into launch, so I think it's probably worth noting just so you guys are aware. The new update to the Admin Center for Microsoft 365, they started doing this all the way back in April. It now should be concluded as of yesterday, so hopefully everyone now has a new Microsoft 365 Admin Center. On top of that, one of the features that I know we've talked about and we love, if you use the OneDrive mobile app, on the online version of OneDrive, they've always had a shared with me section, so you can go in there and see what files are shared with you. It's very, very useful to just, oh, hey, I need to go in and grab access to something. That's now live in the mobile app as well, too, so if you have the mobile app, you should be able to see that. That was one of the features that I always felt like was missing, because the shared with me and shared by me I actually use quite a bit in the online version. So cool to see that out there, and cool to see this coming.
Awesome. Trying to think, I don't know that I have anything else out here that I've seen. I mean, a lot of it's... Go for it. Go for your nerdy email stuff.
Okay, so for the very few people that have had to deal with managing Exchange systems, one of the hard limits that has always been in place is folder limits. When you go through and you try to troubleshoot different stuff that's going on with email or a problem with someone's mailbox, you always have this random end user. Normally it's like the secretary of the president of the company or something that has 8,000 folders and tons of mail inside of it. And if you ever have performance issues with one of those and you try to go and talk to Microsoft, they'd basically just laugh at you and tell you that you needed to get less folders. Well, one thing that I thought was really cool, and they actually call out that if you're running Outlook on Windows and you're accessing shared mailboxes, which is something I know a lot of companies do, they actually remove the 500 folder limit that did exist inside of shared mailboxes. They basically call out that they've improved synchronization of folders, and that was one of the issues why you couldn't have too many, is because they would update folder by folder by folder, so it would lag your whole Outlook system. But so for shared mailbox specifically, they said, hey, we've improved that technology, so we're going to remove this artificial limit here and allow us to go through and do it. So especially for companies that maybe have a shared mailbox that's managing all of this resource that a whole bunch of people have to hit, and the people that are accessing those shared mailboxes probably have the most stuff that they're managing out of Outlook. So as I have had the folder limit problem in Exchange come up time and time again in my professional career, so seeing this was just really cool to see.
Awesome. Well, cool. To kind of close this out, there's two things in the canceled category. One is Outlook on the web meeting time suggestion. There's really nothing to worry about there. They just moved it into a different item, which is in development, which is the Smart Time suggestion. So they basically just took one, rolled it into another. And then the other one is slow performance banner updates inside of SharePoint pages, and that actually hit the canceled list a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about that. So I wouldn't really be too worried about that. That was something that was in development where if you had a page that was slow loading, they were going to say, hey, you should do something different. They're going to take a different direction there, but let's be honest, if your page is slow loading, you're going to know it's slow loading, and you should take a different direction anyway. So they're going to, work with that there. So those are our two canceled items. Nothing to really be upset or worried about there. So those are kind of our updates for this week. It's been great chatting with everybody. So we will be back next week to talk about the next set of updates to the roadmap. Kind of very much looking forward to it. So thanks for joining us today. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, guys.